I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, Yaya Diamond. What's up, peoples? How you doing? Oh my gosh, I am so happy, you guys. I'm ecstatic about just everybody watching. Please don't forget to subscribe or go ahead and continue watching this channel wherever you're watching in the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have so many amazing people on this show, just people that do so many different things, authors and musicians and scientists and diets and this and that. And the reason that we do that is because I want to give a platform to everybody to show you what they're doing so that you too can be encouraged to go after your dreams. And that's why we're Yaya Diamonds Dream Chasers Radio. I want to thank you again so much for tuning in. We have an author on the show today. And you know what? I am not even going to attempt her name. And you guys know how I am. I'm really bad with names, but this is not going to go well. It's not. So I'm going to have her
Uh,
tell you her name. Please introduce yourself.
okay. My name is Chika Echebiri. That's my pen name, actually. But my other last name, which is my marital name, is Durako. So um, I go with my pen name, which is Chika Echebiri.
Yeah,
Now
no,
that's
that was
easy, isn't it? Echebiri.
no,
It's easy to pronounce.
it's not easy to read.
Okay.
No, and definitely I didn't want to mess it up because it seemed like it was very interesting. And definitely it is. Definitely is very interesting. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Where do you come from?
You're welcome. I'm staying here in New York.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
But
yeah,
originally, where are you from?
yeah, I'm Nigerian by nationality, but yeah, but I live in New York.
I
I've been
gotcha.
staying
I
in New
got
York for a while. Yeah.
yeah. It's sometimes it's kind of hard because I can't kind of pronounce the names and everything has its own little pronunciation and different vowels for different sounds and I just don't want to torture people's names. So but thank you again. Thank you again. So
You're
you're an
welcome.
author.
Yeah, I'm an
Awesome.
author and also a teacher.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. I saw that.
Mhm.
So tell me how these two worlds collided for you.
Okay, I would say that I've been writing long before I became a teacher. So
Mm,
I started writing when I was in elementary school, to be precise. So the stuff I used to write, they came from the books I read then, books published by Lady Bird, if you can remember, Lady Bird books. So
mhm.
those books kind of inspired me to start writing short stories myself. So I would just construct something like a paper, with some little pages like that. And I'll draw stuff and then write about them, kind of capturing the illustrations about what I feel. So that's when it all began. From there I
Nice.
progressed, yeah, till I got to middle school. The interest was there. It kept growing just like that. So I've been writing since I was little. And of course, eventually I became a teacher and I'm still writing. So
Wow.
yeah, writing has been my
Wow.
thing always. Yeah.
Wow. So what is it like to be a writer first and then to get into teaching? What was that like for you? Was that like, and I'm just kind of paraphrasing here and trying to kind of understanding it, going into being a teacher, maybe you've taken some of the stuff you've learned and you've written and read and put it into your teaching?
Yeah, you see, as a writer, when you're a writer, you enjoy writing as a hobby. You see a story in anything around you,
Mm,
anything you look at, you can formulate your story from there. Whatever you're doing, whether you're playing outdoors or whether you're playing indoors, or whether you're engaged in any conversation with somebody, a germ of an idea can just spring into your mind and you just catch it and maybe store it somewhere to put down, so that you can
wow.
explore, elaborate on it, and
Right.
you come up with a story. Because anytime you put down a story, just write something down. It could have been stemmed from any experience you may have had, and you kind of stored it in your subconscious only to bring it up, when the time is right. Okay.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's how it has been with me. I see a story in any uh, nook and cranny, any
Mm,
conversation I may have with somebody, anywhere I may be, any outing. wherever I just see story, So it's always been that, like that for me, easy to grasp and all that. So eventually, due to my, interest in school, as a student, I was really into school, academics and things like that, acquiring knowledge, it comes naturally to me, something I enjoy. So I admired my teachers, nearly all of them, some of them could be very strict, but yeah, I admired them, lots of them. And I kind of wanted to model their behavior, the way they control the class, the kind of encouragement they gave us, So I needed to, model that. Okay. So that's how I developed interest in teaching. Okay. So
Right.
being an author and being a teacher, there's some connectivity between the two.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I see it, because as you're teaching, you're conversing with your students. Okay. You're trying to impart knowledge. You're trying to make them understand a certain concept. That goes with a kind of storytelling, because storytelling is a way you can communicate and, pass on information, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to your audience, so that they know where you're coming from, they understand what you're planning to teach and all that.
Right.
Okay, so that's how, they're intertwined, writing and teaching. So it's been okay for me, making that connection and moving along with it.
Nice, nice. I like that. I love that. And since you find stories in everything, how many stories do you think you found just teaching alone?
Um, yeah. Well, to answer that question, it depends on what perspective you're looking
Gotcha.
at. You understand? So, uh, depending on the perspective, I would say that I've lost count, because I have so many stories. I started somewhere and then stopped somewhere. Then left them unfinished to come back again to them. I have so many unpublished works. So, like I said, they've worked in tandem with each other, teaching and writing stories. So, like I said, I've written over 10 stories. Yeah, just put
Wow.
it there. Approximately, yeah, over 10 stories.
Wow. That
Oh,
is so
yeah.
cool. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so let's go, your family, do you have support in that area where they're like, you keep going, or did you have trouble with people telling you, oh, that's never gonna work?
A few, yeah, of course, you have the naysayers, but fortunately for me, they were not from my family. They were just from maybe acquaintances, those that felt that maybe they've been along that same road, and somehow they got stuck somewhere. So you're not likely to get some form of encouragement from them, because they feel that the same story is going to repeat itself. You're not going to make it. It's just a flash in the pan kind of thing. It's not going to last. The interest will not be there. You're going to meet some haters and all that. But I don't listen to that aspect of the conversation. Okay, I don't put it to mind. I just keep going on and on and on. Then I have those that have encouraged me, mostly my family members. They've just given me that kind of encouragement, that kind of, hey, just keep going. You got this. Okay. That kind of gave me the support, to move forward. Just that was the encouragement I needed, for somebody to say, yes, you've got this. Just make it happen. Okay. You've come a long way. You can't quit. We've seen your stories, they're good. So when I hear that kind of encouragement, that keeps me going. So mostly for my family members and a few of my friends, yeah, they've really encouraged me to go on at what I do. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's been okay. All this while it's been okay
That's
and
one.
encouraged. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. So let's talk about your book, Mimi the Deer and Other Stories. Tell me about how this came about.
Well, Mimi Didier and other stories. Am I allowed to talk about my other book that came before that? Maybe.
You can talk about whatever you like, darling. This is your show.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Yaya. So Mimi Didier came up after I've finished publishing my other book, which was The Family of Blackbirds and Other Stories. So yeah, I finished writing both of them almost at the same time. But then somebody who's into publishing and all that, after looking at both books, said, "Oh, you gotta, split it because they were just like one book." So she was like, "Oh, you've got lots of interesting stories, but why not split it?" So that's what I did. So the stories were kind of split, and now you have two books. From the one book, you now have two books. So I could say that both books were published at the same time. The Family of Blackbirds, the first one, and then the latter part of the stories, set of stories, we have Mimi Didier and Other Stories. So Mimi Didier and Other Stories, kind of followed the same pattern, they followed the same concept as the previous book, because it touched on different cultures, okay? It touched on different cultures around the world. I needed something different, to present out there, kind of passing on some information, because I did a little bit of research while writing both books, okay? So that I could get some details that matter, so that anybody reading that story or reading those stories that came from anywhere mentioned right there, any place mentioned right there, could connect and say, "Oh, yes, this author knows what she's doing. She's got down our tradition, you know, our values and all that." So I did a little bit of research while writing book books, because they reflected on different cultures from different parts of the world.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what I wanted to project in the stories. And these are stories, you know, that one could relate to on some levels. On some levels, some really happen, okay. And then while some are form of fables, with some lessons to pass on to the reader. Yeah, usually moral lessons, okay. Moral lessons are like about how you should behave, especially for growing up kids that are still growing up. That will create impression that, look, you have to be good. You have to be obedient. You have to, depending on the type of story anyway, you have to do this. It will add value to your life. You work hard at something. You have to be brave, depending on the type of story anyway. And then some stories are like fables. Okay, they just make believe, and those stories actually help to spike off one's imagination, because I love writing things that are just imaginary, things that may not, occur, naturally, but still kids could find interesting that they could relate to at some level, okay? Because while I was growing up, while I was a kid, I loved magic, things that are somehow magical, but then having a kind of lesson to pass on. So that was reflected in some of my stories. So Mimi Didier and Other Stories has 5 stories. The first one was about a flooding in Madagascar, followed by the next story, which is about the uh, um, what was that again? Yeah, because it's the 2 books, they tend to uh, connect. So we have the flooding in Madagascar, followed by uh, Mimi the deer. I won't go into that right now. Then followed by other stories, okay, like the magic mushroom. Those are 3 stories, and then the remaining ones, which were Penelope's Garden, okay, Penelope's Garden, and then the other story, Jamal and the Zebra. So these are different stories that touch different places, that touch different cultures, with a lesson to pass on, to the reader. The reader feels a sort of connection to each story,
Mhm.
as it were, So that's the information there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, you've put a lot of imagination and a lot of you and your time into these stories. That is so cool. I mean, and you thought about it. What is your writing process?
So my writing process, actually, um, well, I can say mostly in the genre of that's children's stories. Okay, mostly the genre is children's stories right now. Even though eventually I may want to venture into writing thriller, I've got those beats also in some magazines, but not as a book. Okay, so the process, yeah, it depends on what catches my fancy. Um, I just delve into the genre that kind of appeals to me at a particular moment. So, like I said, I'm just into the children's book genre now, and then the young adult also, and then eventually I may venture into thriller, for the adults.
Right. Wow. Wow. Thriller. Something that okay. So for all you people who have been watching my videos, I am a wuss. I will not be watching any horror films or reading any thrillers. I have nightmares about being late to my interview.
Okay.
I wake up like, oh no, what time is it? It's like 3 o'clock in the
Oh,
morning. I
I
mean, literally,
understand.
no,
I
can't. I can't.
understand.
I can't even imagine myself reading a thriller and then going to sleep. It's just like eating
Oh,
pizza and having nightmares. I just can't do
oh
it.
my goodness.
I'm a big wuss, but I absolutely love them. And I guess, when I do get up the nerve to see them, I just
Mhm.
prepare myself for dreams that night. But
Oh
I
my
absolutely
goodness.
love thrillers. I do. I do. So, wow. So that's big. So you're writing the children's books right now and looking into being a thriller writer. What's the difference between the two, though? Is there really any difference?
Between the thriller and the
Yeah.
children's
And the
book.
kids in the children's books. Yeah.
Well, of course, there's some difference between them, okay? Because the thriller, you're going to use a language that adults could, understand, okay? You'll be writing on a different platform. You'll be writing on a different level, reading level, possibly. And of course, yeah, it will be like more for adults, okay? Because adults could relate to those, uh, the stories, the
Mhm.
concept of the particular story that is a thriller. But then for children's books, yeah, like I know about, Harry Potter and all that. It's some form of, there's some form of magical, even the little trailer thrown in with some trailer thrown in, but it's not like I'm going to venture into that. Okay, so from what I'm writing, from my own vantage, from my own perspective, it's gonna be different.
Mm.
Okay, totally different. Yes. So because
Wow.
I'm not gonna, if it's thriller, I'm not gonna make it magical. But then it depends on what catches my fancy. Okay. Even if I have to throw in some magic, it would be like somehow like a Stephen King's own type of you know, angle, something that is, how do I put it? Not necessarily magical as something sci-fi, something like that,
I got you.
scientific, yeah, something like that. Okay.
Gotcha.
But then, yeah, but it's going to be different from what I'm writing now. Yeah, the thriller
I got
part. So just to give you an overview of what I've got just in the offing,
you. Mhm.
that is for the thriller bit. It's about, okay, let me not go too much into it, but so there's some intrigue to it,
I
to
got
the
you.
thriller. Yeah, there's some
We don't want to give
intrigue.
it away.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, I don't
we
want to
don't want
give
to
it
give it away.
away. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no,
There's some
you got to read
intrigue
it.
involved. Yeah, but then with
Yeah,
lots of suspense, you understand, of
I
course,
got you.
because there's no good thriller without suspense. You got to put some suspense in there. So
You definitely
as to
do.
keep the as to keep the reader right, glued to the book to the very end, So
Yes.
it could be a page turner, something like that. Okay,
Yes.
so for the kiddies book, I just stuck to kids, okay, with a little magical quality, all right, little magical quality, and of course the lessons to be learned from them, mostly moral lessons, because I just need to shape these young minds as they're growing so that they know what is good, what could help them, the behavior that they could model to become better citizens, to serve their community, okay, and then pass on those values to those they meet. So that's my aim of writing what I'm writing for the children right at
Nice.
this moment. Yes. So
Nice.
that's how it is. So there's
That
a
is
lot
so
of
cool.
difference between the thriller and the children's
Yeah.
books I'm writing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. But okay. So I have one more question for you. And I think I've never really asked this question. And that's kind of weird because I like to ask a lot of questions. But, but this question really is truthfully, when you're writing and you're sitting there, are you visualizing the entire scene? Like, are you in it? Like, are you in the scene, or are you kind of just writing it because it's an idea?
I know. That's what makes a writer that's really writing for the fun, the engagement, the excitement, the thrill it brings, than a writer that is just writing, just to expend some emotions, you know, because what you're gonna pen out, you understand, what you're gonna pen out will reflect your mood at that particular moment. All right. Anybody reading it will say, oh, possibly maybe a fellow writer that is reading your book will just reflect on the pages and then could imagine the mood the writer was in while writing that book. All right. So it depends. All right. So for me, when I'm writing, I'm really into it. Like I
Mm.
told you earlier, I see some stories in my conversation with people, making connections with people, places that I've been, events. They just come in, they just trickle in. You won't know how it happens, just trickles in. And then when the time comes, boom, you're putting down the idea, you're penning it without a thought. The thing just flows just like that until maybe you get the writer's block, but then you just keep going on at it, instead of just leaving it suspended for quite a while. So, yeah, you have to
Wow.
really put your whole mind, your whole self into it, building up, more ideas based on a single germ of an idea that just filtered into your mind. And before you know it, your imaginations just run crazy and you're just writing and penning things up.
Wow. Wow. Well, you brought me in. Literally, I'm like in there with you. I'm like Mimi the deer and other stories. I'm like, okay, so who's where? That is
Yeah,
so
I
cool.
know, I get it.
That is so cool. That is so cool. I love it when people are into it. Like when they're in their work and they can visualize, like they're not even in this room or in this building. They're in the story. And that
Yeah.
to me is just amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it because it translates. It really does translate to your writings. And if those
Mhm.
writings become movies, it translates to the movie. So it's like
Oh, yeah,
it really is animated from the page. The words jump off the page. It's like you're in it. I
of
love that.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely love that.
Yeah.
So where can people find your books?
Um, my books are available on Amazon and bookshops where books are sold. And
Nice,
then you can also find them in Barnes and Noble.
nice, nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's hard work. It's not easy.
You can say that again. You can
What
say
kind of
that
advice
again.
do you, huh?
You can say that again.
You said it was hard work.
Mhm. Hard work
Hard work.
with a little fun thrown in. So
Yeah,
it sounds like,
definitely,
yeah.
definitely. So what kind of advice do you give to people? Because I mean, we don't want to give the illusion that being a writer is easy. It's not, but it is enjoyable. So what do you say to those people about the enjoyable side of being an author? Actually, of being a published author?
Yeah. My encouragement to them is that, everybody sees, if only they could, one could just sit back and reflect. Everybody has a story to tell. You may think you don't have any story to tell, but any event in your life, whether good, whether unsatisfactory, oh, okay, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. I'll
Okay,
cut that out.
okay.
Go ahead.
So I just want to encourage everybody out there, everybody, when you sit back and relax and reflect, there's a story in every part of your life, even though you may not realize it. It could be your conversation with people, it could be your relationship with other people, it could be your events in your life, events that happen in your life, whether they're, like I said before, satisfactory or no. Or it could be, you see it in everything, in every object, even in not only in people, in every object, in what you watch, on TV. You know, there are lots of stories to tell. So don't think that, penning it out is like you have to follow a certain format. Okay, it doesn't have to be rocket science, okay, for you to think up of what to write. Just begin with a sentence. Just pen out something, okay? Just begin with a sentence, write words, make connections with what you've jotted down. And before you know it, the stories start forming. But then you really have to develop the interest. Don't think it's hard work, because it isn't. Okay. Many authors out there, they thought they couldn't write, of course. But then when you listen to their stories, how they began, you see that they just came from, you know, doing the little things, taking note of what is going on around you. Of course, you have eyes, you have ears. With this, you learn your environment. You learn things that happen in your environment. You pen things down, okay? Just put your whole mind, your whole emotions into it, and then let it flow. And before you know it, you're writing sentences. Going from sentences, you're writing paragraphs, you're writing pages, and boom, it keeps blowing and blowing onto something that is an idea. And before you know, you're getting out a book out there. So
Wow.
just keep at it.
Little by little.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Thank you so much for being on the show.
You're welcome.
I
Thank you
appreciate
for
it.
having me. Yeah,
Oh,
thank you for
anytime.
having me.
Anytime. You put that when you put that thriller out, now you got to come back.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'll be looking forward to that.
Of course, I will be too. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can get her book in the description box below. All you have to do is click on that link. We're going to put that book in our book club. So that'll be a book that you can get for your children. And when her thriller comes out, we'll thrill you with a link in our book club. How about that? I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to dare to be different. Until next time, guys. Bye.